to kind of build on that because you said I mentioned that, and that was something that I was kind of talking about. I was like, look, I think is Armstrong young? Is there a couple guys that are young? But look, I think it goes deeper than that. And you just said Coach Madison came in 1 year and taught you more in a year than
Oh,
you were
for
at your
sure.
entire time. So the question, right, to that is, we keep saying, hey, we're preaching patience, we're preaching a young team, we're also preaching talent. The talent gap isn't there, but look,
Yeah,
I'm here with you. But at the same time, if these coaches are supposed to be elite coaches and great coaches, there should be an ability that, hey, we're developing these guys to a certain extent. So
yeah.
again, we're not here to call anybody. This is where
No,
it gets tough, right? Because I don't want to get anyone fired. But look, if you're
yeah,
not
no.
prepared, if you're not ready for this level of play, that doesn't mean you're not bad or you're not going to be some time, right? But you've got to. It's
Yeah.
just you're not ready to be here yet, right? Is that where you're kind of
I mean,
leaning? That we don't know who it
but
is.
Billy says it too. He says we evaluating everything, and if we're going to evaluate everything, that's and coaches included. Like with Coach Madison, like he taught us like percentages, down the distance, what they were gonna try to run. Like we studied, like studied. Like we would have tests before the game, tests during the middle of the week, where you had to answer questions about the team, about the players, what they like to run. If they're in this formation and you see this guy's offset over here, what do you think they're gonna run? And he'll like pause the film, and you have to answer the question, and then he'll hit play. Like, okay, you're right. You know what I mean? Little things like that that gets you ready for the game. And just from having Zook and Coach Red Anderson was our defensive line coach at the time. He was a little older at that time in his career. He didn't teach us that. I didn't know
Mm.
anything about none of that. And so it's not uncommon for coaches to not have as much experience as some other coaches have. And that don't make them a less of a coach, but they're still on this journey too. They're young, and some of that stuff take time. And then you got to have people on your staff, the assistants that are feeding you this information. Hey, here are all these third down plays. This is their 3rd and 5 and longer, or their 3rd and 4 and shorter, and this is what they run, and this is what they're trying to do. And you break that down, and that helps you get the edge on the team. And I just don't think we're quite there yet with that part of the breakdown. And if we are getting that to them, the guys aren't receiving it yet, the younger guys. So we got to drill that into them, and you can just tell when it gets to certain situations that our players are confused as to what might happen on this play, and that hurts.
And I think the youth, I would give them more of an excuse. And going back to, we say, hey, Mullen left as a dumpster fire, and I've been on that train that, yeah, maybe the talent of guys hasn't been what it should have been. But if you go look at 247's, the talent for this year, we've used it as an advantage because our roster, according to 247, is more talented than the Kentucky roster. I think we're top 20 talent. So we keep
Right.
saying the talent isn't there, but numbers are saying that it is there, and maybe it isn't there. But then I look, okay, that's fine, but they're a body of work. They're still here. They still have to play the game. So now I'm
Right.
going to look at the coaches like, hey, can you develop these guys? You're going to just every
Right.
time something doesn't work out, like, oh, that guy sucks. Like, well, no, at some point
Yeah.
the
No.
finger is going to
Yeah.
point back
Yeah.
to you of like, how are you developing? How are you pushing them? And again, if we're not, I think that's where Gator fans, where we're trying to, everyone's arguing because they're trying to figure out what the problem is. And I think it's not the fact that we're losing, right? We keep saying the same thing. It's how we're losing. And when you look at the production on the football field, we're not seeing the progress, right? And
Right.
that's, to me, that's where the coaching comes into play. We can't say it's talent because it's like, okay, maybe this guy isn't the fastest or the most elite. And we've talked about that. But hey, you can have heart, you can have passion, and if you're willing to study, and if you're not willing to do all those things, which is easy, right? Like, sure, God didn't give you 6'5", you're not faster than everybody else, but you have the ability to take it and digest it. If you're not doing those things, you are not going to play. I will put somebody in that is way less, further developed, but is willing to learn it than you just going out there and sucking because you care to learn. And again, that, in my opinion, still falls back on coaching because you're not keeping them accountable, right?
Yeah.
Like it all goes
Yeah.
back to
Yeah.
the top.
Yeah, now you got to run a tight ship. You can't leave room for error, and you got to demand it out of everybody. Coach Meyer didn't care if you were a coach or player. The way he demanded excellency out of you. You know what I mean? He didn't care. He would call you out whether you were the coach or the player. It didn't matter, and we were going to address all the issues up front. And I just, you know, I'm hopeful for what we have to do in the future. This season just kind of sucks where you got to suck it up. I mean, they hadn't never beat us at home ever
Mm.
in the history of playing. So that's a tough one to take on the chin. You know what I mean? Are you telling me that Arkansas is further along in their movement than we are. Like they'll get back to, or they'll win a national championship before we do. No, you know what I mean. But for them to beat us at home, that's like, come on, man. Um, Things like that can't happen. So it's going to put a very salty taste in your mouth from a fan point of view. You know what I mean? And if you're looking at where we're supposed to be, I don't care if we had all freshmen out there. I believe we should still be Arkansas at home. So it's just, it's a tough season. But I still believe we're moving in the right direction. It's just going to take some hardship, and Billy gonna have to make some moves, and address some of these issues, talking to the coaches and just seeing where their heads at, and diving into what they actually doing week by week to get the players prepared. But I mean, like I said, if I could take a plus away from it, it would be our defensive line, the younger guys stepping up, flying off the ball, getting pressure where we lack that. But like I said, we take one step forward and then we take another step back in another area, and it
Tough.
just sucks, man.
It's interesting you said that. That kind of puts things in to perspective a little bit better, right? Is Arkansas closer to win a national championship than we are? Right? Like when you say it like that,
really?
yeah, it stings a little bit more. Like, yeah, like, right, like, because we can make excuses for like, hey, like how we lost this game, but again, grand scheme of things, like, look, we got to believe that we're much further along. We've recruited, even though we maybe dropped the ball. We can't say that we've dropped to this level. Again, it's a tough loss,